My name is John Taylor, and a few other names that the people call me around here. Daniel Boone, David Crockett, all kind of crazy stuff. And they used to call that teasing me, but most of the time those names were people that had a lot to do with the environment. And when they called me names like, "Oh, you think you John Muir?" I say, "Woo." To myself, how that makes me feel. At least I'm doing something, because John Muir was an important person. He was one of the founders of the Sierra Club and things like that. And a part of his life was making certain pieces of land or waters out of national parks so they won't be bought up in condos or buildings built on them. So that made me feel good. See, they teased me, but the more they teased me, the higher I became I was higher to myself but the swamps was my therapy, and all sorts of things I haven't talked about the wetland, but the wetlands was right 4 blocks from my house, just walking distance, come out the back door, turn left and go straight up Choctaw, straight to Florida Avenue, straight across Florida Avenue, and there was the swamps. And it was hundreds and hundreds of beautiful cypress trees in the middle of the water. And up pops Hurricane Bessie in 1965. And what's so funny about that is 1965, Bessie flooded the lower ninth wall. 2005, Katrina did the same. So they stood up for many years before they started, rotting and falling. Because after they died out, they were just sticking up. That some people call it the ghost swamp, because most of the trees died away, and most of them fall down after a certain amount of time and into the water. And by they being cypress, they were sinking under the bottom of the water. You never knew they was down there until you went to get them out for purposes of, like they sell the wood. In fact, I'm one of they who actually sell some of the cypress wood that been sunk. They call it sunken cypress, and they make all kinds of things out of it by cutting it again, because cypress wood can stay underwater for years and years and years, and it won't rot. It actually rots faster when they get it out the water. I miss the beauty of it, and and then when something gone, some kind of way, it gains another type of beauty in a different way. It wasn't easy to navigate through that swamp when it was alive, because the trees was close together. Then they had the cypress knees, which is the roots coming back out of the water, coming up. And people wanted to know why cypress trees do that, why the roots come up. The roots come up because that's balancing the tree. The tree is in water at all times, so that root comes up. And there's also, a swamp has less oxygen in it than a regular body of water that's moving, like the Mississippi, like Lake Pontchartrain, so it's more, as they call, stagnated, still water. So the roots come up to catch air, really. And people don't realize that cypress trees are built to be in the water. A cypress tree is smaller at the top, and as it comes down to the bottom, it widens up like a bell shape to balance itself in this slushy type of mud. Cypress trees grow close together. They grow close together is because they actually hold hands, in a sense. The roots from this cypress tree on the left, and the roots from the cypress trees on the right, they be so close together, and the roots do this, like you take your fingers and put together. They intertwine with each other. So if the wind comes and the cypress tree roots is not strong enough or further enough through the slushy mud to get to the harder mud, the wind have to push down both of these trees steady one. It's like me and you walking through the water, and you get ready to fall, but we holding hands, and I hold you up. So that's why the cypress trees don't fall that much through the water. I've been watching, actually lately I've seen a commercial about something with Amanda Shore. This is a musician, a girl that plays the guitar and sings Cajun music. And it's a big, huge cypress tree in that commercial. People are standing by it. And actually, I mean, I've never seen a cypress tree that large in my life. And my dream is, it's gonna happen pretty soon, for me to go find out where that tree at, you know.
Yeah.
So, you know, and people call, you know, they make fun of environmentalists. They call them all kind of stuff because they want this land to build something on. They call us tree huggers. That's one tree I would love to hug. I may not be able to touch my hands together once I grab this tree, but I'd be happy as a flea on a big fat dog, you understand, just to touch that beautiful cypress tree. And it's, I think it's hundreds and hundreds of years old, you know. But it's just a part of me. It's just what I love. That was being nosy with the old guys who sit around with pocket knives, and they call it whittling. You know, take sticks and carve things on. I said, I might could do that. And I'd done it a few times, and it didn't look right to me, and I quit. Then I done it, started over again, and I quit, you know. And I've been, you know, I'm not trying to criticize the exes, but I've been married a few times. It didn't work out. Oh, so it, you know, it was things to do to keep me calm, you know, make me calm, you know, relaxation, you know. It's just like, you know, when a person painting or something like that, you know. I found out that, you know, and then it's a therapy, you know. I can sit down and carve or draw something on the wood, and then I carve it and stuff like that. Some of it I get mad and throw it away because I don't think it came out all right. And some people say you shouldn't throw it away, you should have kept it, because the one that you think is bad, somebody else may want to buy it. You know, so now I just don't throw them away. If you can see my porch, you see all those pieces of sticks on that porch is there for a purpose. They are there because when I got them, they were wet. And if you carve something on a piece of wood and it's wet and it's coming out beautifully, and then it starts to split when it dries. So I fixed that. I said, wait a minute, before I put my time and energy on carving it, I'm gonna let it dry first. If it's gonna crack, it's gonna crack before I took all the time with it, you know. And that's why it gets on the porch, you know. And some people, to keep this, I would go as to keep the beautiful things we have here, to keep them for people to come see, for you to enjoy, is to treat it the way you would treat something you liked. You wouldn't go out there and just cut your beautiful rose and then take the rose and throw it on the ground. You know, you want to see the beauty of the rose. And this the way it is. These things that our maker put on this earth, every one of them, every piece of grass, every stick, it was a purpose. The stick once was a living plant. And then when it dies and it deteriorates the right way, it becomes fertilizer for the next young plant. That's why apple trees grow next to dead apple trees. You don't go in unless you take the apple and bring it somewhere else. But usually it grows from the death of the senior tree, you know. And those things are important. If we want to stop our land from eroding away, we have to keep these trees to stop the wind from being as powerful. Most people know that a hurricane loses its strength when it hits land. It also loses its strength when it has to go through wooded areas and swamps and all that. If the wooded area wasn't there, it'd be a straight street for the hurricane come up and tear us up some more.